The whispering woods of Blackwood. The old logging road, barely more than 2 worn tracks swallowed by encroaching ferns, was a bad idea. Mark knew it, Sarah had warned against it, and even their usually fearless dog, Buster, seemed to whimper nervously in the back seat. But Dave, with his perpetual grin and unwavering belief in shortcuts, had insisted. "It'll shave an hour off the drive to the cabin, I swear," he'd chirped, pointing to a faded, hand-drawn map. They were deep in the Blackwood National Forest, a place notorious for its dense canopy that even at midday felt like dusk. The air grew colder, heavy with the scent of damp earth and pine, and a silence settled over them, broken only by the crunch of gravel beneath their tires and Buster's occasional, uneasy sniff. "Are you sure about this, Dave?" Sarah finally asked, her voice a little too quiet. "The GPS lost signal miles ago." Dave, undeterred, just chuckled. "That's how you know it's a real shortcut. Adventure." Suddenly, the car sputtered. Then coughed. Then died. The silence that followed was absolute, save for the faint drip of condensation from the trees. Mark tried the ignition. Nothing. "Great," he muttered, thumping the steering wheel. "Just great." Dave's grin faltered. Uh-oh. They spent the next half hour trying to diagnose the problem, but none of them were mechanics. The sun, a distant memory above the impenetrable canopy, began to dip, casting long, distorted shadows that danced like gaunt figures in the undergrowth. A cold dread began to seep into them, chilling them more than the darkening air. "We can't stay here," Sarah said, pulling her jacket tighter. "It'll be freezing tonight, and—" What was that? A faint, almost imperceptible sound had drifted through the trees. A low, sustained whisper, like the rustle of dry leaves, yet distinct. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Probably just the wind, Mark tried, though no breeze stirred the heavy air. They decided to walk back to the main road. Dave, still clinging to his optimism, led the way, Mark and Sarah following, Buster trotting nervously at Sarah's heels. The whispers intensified, weaving in and out of the forest's silence. They weren't words, not exactly, but a cacophony of sibilant murmurs, like countless voices speaking just beyond the edge of hearing. As they walked deeper into the encroaching twilight, the trees began to feel different. Their gnarled branches seemed to reach out, their trunks twisting into forms that hinted at faces, hollow eyes watching them. The whispers grew louder, closer, swirling around them. "I don't like this," Sarah choked out, clutching Mark's arm. Then, Buster let out a terrified yelp, a sound so raw and guttural it made them all jump. He was staring, rigid with fear, at a patch of dense undergrowth to their left. The leaves there seemed to writhe, though no animal was visible. "What is it, boy?" Mark whispered, his hand going to Buster's head. The whispers coalesced into a single, chilling sound, a long, drawn-out sigh that seemed to emanate from the very ground beneath their feet. The air grew heavy, thick with a scent like old, damp earth and something else, something cloyingly sweet and putrid, like forgotten flowers. Suddenly, a rustling in the bushes ahead made them freeze. A figure emerged from the shadows. It was tall, impossibly thin, and draped in what looked like tattered, grey rags. It moved with a jerky, unnatural gait, its head tilted at an odd angle. As it stepped into a sliver of remaining light, they saw its face. Or rather, the absence of one. Where features should have been, there was only a smooth, pale expanse, like polished bone. A collective gasp escaped them. Buster, whimpering uncontrollably, tried to burrow behind Sarah. The whispers now surrounded them, a chorus of unintelligible voices, seemingly emanating from the faceless figure. It raised a skeletal hand, its long, thin fingers beckoning. "Run!" Mark screamed, grabbing Sarah's hand. They turned and fled back the way they came, the crunch of their feet on the gravel echoing in the oppressive silence. The whispers chased them, growing louder, closer, transforming into desperate pleas, then guttural threats. Dave, usually so quick, stumbled. He fell hard, twisting his ankle. "My leg!" he cried, pain contorting his face. Mark and Sarah hesitated. The faceless figure was gaining on them, its unnatural stride surprisingly swift. The whispers were now a deafening roar in their ears, pushing at their sanity. "Go! Leave me!" Dave yelled, pushing them away. But they couldn't. Mark grabbed Dave, trying to pull him up, but he was dead weight. Sarah, tears streaming down her face, looked back. The figure was almost upon them. Its skeletal hand reached out, not for Dave, but for the air just above him. Then, something happened. The whispers reached a crescendo, a final, agonizing scream that tore through the air. The faceless figure paused, its head tilting even further, as if listening to something only it could hear. And then, it began to dissolve. Like smoke in the wind, its form wavered, blurred, and then vanished, leaving behind only the lingering scent of decay and a profound, chilling silence. They lay there, panting, for what felt like an eternity. The whispers were gone. The oppressive feeling had lifted. Slowly, carefully, they helped Dave up. His ankle was clearly broken, but he was alive. They limped on, the rest of the walk back to the main road a blur of fear and exhaustion. When they finally staggered onto the familiar asphalt, a distant car light appeared. It was a park ranger, who looked at their disheveled, terrified faces with a mixture of concern and weary familiarity. "Another one, huh?" he sighed, shaking his head. The Blackwood whispers. They claim a few lost souls every year. They never went back to the Blackwood National Forest. And even years later, in the quiet of their homes, a sudden rustle of leaves or a faint, indistinct sound could send a shiver down their spines, a chilling reminder of the whispers that once hunted them in the deep, dark woods.